We're coming down to the end of this Parlor guitar project. The last few things on it, like crowning the frets and putting the accoutrements back onto this body, and then it should be completed. I wanted to talk about a few things you saw in the other video which speeded through. You saw me use this here to level the frets with the self-adhering sandpaper to it. It's nothing more than a piece of 1x1 square stock aluminum. Came from the hardware store. Came in a 3-foot section, so now I have 1, 2, 3 sizes cut out, and I'm going to make some handles for these, and I will use those to level the frets. Some for small repair areas, some for the entire thing, and some for shorter neck variety. Cost of that, you're looking at probably 20 bucks including the handle, versus buying a fret level from StewMac or some of the other sources. You're going to be paying $70, $80, $100, and upwards of $150 for some of those. This way you can do it for a little bit cheaper. It's going to save you some money. Okay, the other thing you saw me use was this here real quick. It's just a sanding block which I used to soften up the corners that we had beveled off to 30 degrees to make sure that you're not catching your fingers up on that or the strings or other issues like that. I did go ahead and buy something new here. This is a new type of crowning file for frets versus this guy here, which I've had forever and used forever. This has a little insert block on it. It has a wide, medium, and narrow edge. It is a double cut file, and it's basically like it states a file. You just run it back and forth across the top of your fret till you get it to where you're going, and then you would have to go with 600, 800, 1000, 1500, 2000, 2500, and then some quadruple zero steel wool to get each one of those frets up to where you want it. With this guy here, this has a diamond dust in it here, and there's a narrow radius. This one has a it has medium and wide on this particular one. This did cost a little bit more than the other fret file. This is about 90 bucks. If you get one from StewMac, they're about 100 or so, but you can find these for eBay for between, I think it was 75 and 85 bucks, a few sources. The other thing I used, going to be using on this one is a little square diamond file like this. It has a 45 on it. Take your time doing this. Make sure that you have them all level. If you don't, you're going to get what's known as fret buzz. Basically, is that the strings will carry across more than one fret or more than the intended frets, and that's where you're going to get that muted and that buzzy sound and then the string rattle. So, with that said, let's go ahead and bring the camera in here and start working on these frets. Okay, now that we're zoomed in a little bit closer to work on these frets here, one thing I should have mentioned obviously is you're going to need some tape. And with the tape, I actually get 2-inch, 1.5 and I cut them in half when I put them on the frets, because I like to have the tape all at the same level. So what I'm talking about is that I cut them. You see that this tape is short. When I put the next one on, it'll be short of the other side. You cut another piece. Cut that in half, and as you can see here, it does not go all the way to the other side. So that the thickness of the tape on this side is just as thick as the tape on this side. You're not doubling over going back. So there's one layer of tape, one layer of tape, one layer of tape, and one layer of tape. There is not one layer here, 2 layers here. One layer here, 2 layers here by going back like that. So that's just, it may not make a difference. I feel it does. On what you're looking for when you're leveling those frets. You're using this, and you're trying to do this with it to see if there's any rock on there. And with these 3, there's no rock, so those 3 are completed. So now you're going to move on down 1. You're always going to do a series of 3. So next one here. Oh, are we doing this too early? Yes, we are. You need to crown this first. Okay, we are at a lower angle here. Those are the 3 frets. This one I have pretty much completed other than the final polish. This one has been rounded and it is ready to receive polish. And this one here, you just saw me work on, and you can see that little red line that's going across the middle yet. You notice that there is bare metal on both sides, and you can still see the line in the middle. I'm going to take down a little more so that the line becomes even thinner, but you want to leave that line on there, because once you remove the line off of here, what you're doing is the frets are no longer level. So we're going to go ahead like I showed you from the other angle. You take your marker. I prefer the red because I can see it easier. Nice solid red stripe on it. I'm going to take our little 45 diamond file. Like I said, it only has the dust on one side, not both. And we're going to go ahead and stroke one side of the fret with it all the way across. And what I'm looking at here is I'm watching the red start to disappear on the edge a little bit here. Not a lot of it is gone, but there's enough gone that I can see. We do the opposite side. You want to make sure you do this evenly on both sides. You don't want to have it wear away more on one side than the other, because obviously the center of your crown will be left or right of center instead of in the middle. Make sure you do the entire fret. Alright, that's narrowed it up on both sides. Now we want to use our new diamond dusted crowning file, which I really do like at this point. I think this works very well. Come across the center, doing the entire fret. This does remove a lot of material quickly, so you want to make sure you're watching your top. You don't want all of that red marker disappearing in the middle of the fret. It's already moving more here, more on the end, so you want to concentrate on a little more in the middle. And I'm not putting a lot of pressure here, I'm letting the file do the work. And now we've gotten to that thinner line in the middle. With the light from this side, looking at the directly under the light, the line that goes across the center of this fret is roughly, I would say, 4 or 5 thousandths. You want to go just a hair more. And that is where we want to be, right there. So now is when you're going to check for your rock. You can hear a little bit there. Nothing there. Nothing there. Just right on the end there. And I will marker that so I know once that marker material there, the color basically, once that's gone, we want to recheck it. You want to do this a lot, very, very carefully. And yes, I should have tape there. Go back and check it again. Just do a little bit at the very end. And the closer you are to being level, the more frequently you want to check it. And as you can see now, it's level. So now this is ready to move on to the next one. Are we doing it too early? Yes, we are. We want to do this first. Remember that. I'm doing this intentionally to show you that you want to make sure your crown is started first before you go back and level the ones behind. You are going forward one fret at a time. And that's the way the entire fretboard should be done. Okay, now that we've gone through the time-lapse video part of it, and you know that the entire fretboard is leveled, you saw me go back a few times to get some areas where it rocked. So when you go past it, let's say it's not rocking here, when you move on to here, it's rocking there. You go back and you redo those ones. That's why you've seen me move back and forth a few times to make sure. But in general, this fretboard was fairly easy to level, and I have to say the diamond impregnated files in that, I'm pretty impressed with them. They work very well. So now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be polishing these frets. Typically I would start with some 400, then move to 6, 8, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, so forth. But because I don't think there's a whole lot of scratching on the surface and the diamond is not quite as rough as the file is, I'm going to try starting out with some 800, move to some 1,500, then do some 2,000, and then we'll see what happens with the quadruple steel wool, and take a look at this first one here and see what goes on with it here. So we're going to grab your 800 paper. Obviously you're just going to fold it. I don't care how you fold it. I just do this so I can get around both sides. And here what we're doing is looking to remove any scratches left over from the diamond files, which you don't really have a lot, and I can see already this is pretty smooth just from that little bit. And I am going across the top of it and around the sides. I'm putting hardly any pressure on it, but what I'm trying to do is just simply remove those scratches. Okay. Looks like that's pretty clean. Let's take a look and see what the 1,500 does. Same thing, I just fold it up so it's easier to cover the entire fret. Yeah, that's already looking really clean. Both sides of your fret. Yeah, it looks like it's going to work really well. I pulled the tape off so you can get a real good look at the frets on here now that they're completed. You can see that beautiful mirror-like shine going all the way down the neck. All the frets are very uniform, nice and round. Take a look at the side here. You can see how round that those frets are. Very narrow land area for the string that breaks away on both sides very evenly. That's the result you'll get if you take your time. Okay, I've just put strings on it. They'll have to settle down a couple days before it's played and then retuned, but here is the completed Parlor guitar. Some of you guys have been with me for a while through this entire project, and I appreciate your patience in staying to watch this, but this is the completed guitar right up to the neck. There's the nut I made, which I'll show you how to make a nut in another video because I have a few more guitars that need nuts made. And here's the headstock with the original tuners. Flip it over here, you can see what they look like. Those have been semi-restored but not completely restored to keep the patina. Here's the action. You'll see that it's nice and low, appropriate for the type of guitar it is. Right through the body.